One of the most stressful parts of woodworking to me is the glue up because most things you can fix. If in the glue up you do not seat the joint correctly or it seizes up before it's seated, you got a problem. I mean, what are you going to do?
A block of wood is never just a block of wood. It's a starting line. It's alive with possibility. Listen carefully. It's saying something softly. Let's do something.
All right, so we've got our sides all dovetailed, and now a little secret weapon. We've got this template for routing the divider slots. We're going to use a sliding dovetail for our dividers. And I made this little jig that we used off our story stick to show the different spacing between the drawers. We've got graduated drawers, meaning they get smaller as you go up. And I made these little slots that will fit a 5/8 guide collar on the router. And it fits right on here and indexes off the bottom edge. And we're going to clamp it down and route right in here. Then when we're done with those, we're going to just flip and reference off the bottom again, but to the back. We're going to mirror some dividers in the back, which creates a really nice parallel setup for the runners to lock into and makes the whole thing simple. All right, looks good. Now we're going to put a little piece of tape in the front here to prevent against any kind of tear out. And it's important when you're making this cut, it's good to have a sharp bit. I'm using a 14-degree dovetail bit that's 3/4 of an inch wide. And when I enter the cut, I'm going to specifically focus on coming in on the right side as I make the cut. And then just in case my router bit isn't centered, I'm going to do it a second pass, turning the router away from me and run it again. And that way I know everyone will be dead center in the slot. Here we go. All right, so now we'll flip it over to reference again off the bottom, but this time we'll be routing into the back. So I'll turn it toward me. And once again, get it clamped up and run our slots. All right, so I just routed the dovetail slot in the top of our case. This is going to handle that little vertical divider that splits the top two drawers. And I made that by making another jig, just like our other drawer divider jig. But this one's going to reference off the shoulder to a central guide slot on here. Once we have our divider cut to length and fitted, we'll flip and cut the same slot corresponding for our top little vertical center divider. All right, so now we're going to go dry fit the case together and get the length for our dividers. All right, now we got it all dry assembled, and it's the perfect time to get the length of our drawer dividers. So sometimes the simplest methods are the best because they're direct. So I'm using a stick here. I'm just going to have a nice square-ended stick, put it right in the dovetail slot, and then make a pencil mark over here. I could make a little knife cut. And I have the exact length right here that I'm going to use at the table saw to set up my stop right off this stick. I'll come over, I'll set the line right to the blade, right to that little cut, and then I just move my stop right up. And that's it. I've got the exact length, and I can cross cut my dividers, and then we'll get our dovetails on the ends. I'm gonna, I don't know, that was one thing about working with Pug, how direct everything was. It was just common sense, where if you took out the rule and you stuck it in the slot, you're reading the number, and then you've got to transfer that number, and you've got just inaccuracies off the end. You know, it's kind of no-brainer to have a little stick. All right, so we're ready to cut our sliding dovetails into the ends of our dividers. And to do that, I've set up the router table here with the same 14-degree dovetail bit. And I made this little auxiliary fence out of hard maple and glued it up so I'm a dead 90 here. And it's almost a zero tolerance if I hadn't used it a few times here. But the nice thing about that is it gives you really nice feel and solid footing as you make the pass. So I'm going to make a couple passes here, one on each side, and then we'll test fit and see how it goes. Here we go. All right, we're going to do our back dividers the exact same way, but I've marked these out with my little triangle so I know which one's the top, and having that I can go ahead and test fit them. So I'll try this one. I know this has to be the location, and what do you know, fits pretty nice. That's awesome. So I'll leave that, and I'll just go right on across and test fit these. So far, so good. That's perfect. So those three are set, and then I can just reverse to check into the other side here. And this is great to fit up now, because if you glued up the piece first and then try test fitting them, you'd have both ends trying to lock in at the same time. It would be racking and a lot more difficult. Beautiful, all of them. Now, they don't seat all the way, so I'm just going to notch out the back a little bit so that they go in to reach flush in the front. The way I do that is I just put them in backwards, make a little pencil mark here to where they stop, and then I know I just have to remove that amount, which I'll just do on the bandsaw, and then clean it up so that shoulder is nice and it'll slide right in and will be flush on the front. It's good to have a helper like Barry though, because if you do this alone, it's a little stressful. So it's good to have a helper. Even if he makes fun of your brush. So we got all our cauls and our clamps are staged and ready to go. You want to kind of rehearse your moves. And actually a dry run is a good idea with clamps for doing a large glue up like this. All right, just gotta get this one. Are you all done?
Yeah.
Oh no. So when I'm doing this myself, one of my strategies so the glue doesn't dry up on me is I just put it in all the sockets first without spreading it. I just rough it in there and then I get it all on here and I spread these out quickly and then I go back to the sockets so that there's no glue like thin drying too long, and then you spread that heavier glue over there, and by the time you come back and put it together, everything's still liquid enough. I'm gonna put the bottom down first. All right, so here's the bottom. I'm gonna put the front toward me. So we're gonna bring that over.
The front is facing.
There you go, perfect, yep. Yeah, there you go. And then we'll get this on top. All right. Are you starting?
No, I'll stop.
Okay, good. Is it going?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right. Beautiful. Nice. By just dampening that too, it'll hold that glue from drying up too much in the end grain. That's it. Beautiful. I've got some white pine cauls that we're going to set right over the pins. So the pine will kind of dent and squeeze in over the cherry pins and just seat our tails. All right, I'm seeing a slight squeeze out there. That's nice. I'm going to bring this out. Get one on the middle. Okay, let's get to the other side. Beautiful. Let's check this side. So we just got a little squeeze out in here. That looks nice. All right, now I'm gonna just turn this clamp to the side like that. And we're gonna check for square. So we could measure, we could use a rule or tape and just measure corner to corner. And if you get that square, you know you're good. But I'm gonna use this cherry stick. I just have a nail. So that nail will go right into that corner. And then I can swing over on the stick and see where we're at on this end. No, it's not this mark. I'm gonna leave that mark there first. That's been there from an old one. It's my mark, and then I'm gonna come over and I'm way out, but I'm right here. So we're out of square. So we wanna, if we split the difference, it's this line right here. This is the key line. If we hit this line on both diagonals, we're square. Now to fix that, loosen the clamps a little bit. I'm surprised it was that far out. Let's see, just slightly, oh, too much. So I want to hit that middle line. Oops. That looks good. It's almost dead on. So sometimes you have to force it back with the clamps. This has some nice give. It's still, the glue is still working with us. So if you have to force it with the clamps, like say if this was the long diagonal here, we would pull the handle of the clamp out on the long side. And then we do the same over here. We pull the head out on the long side just a bit, then re-snug. What that does is the clamp is now angled in the direction you want to squeeze the parallelogram together to square up. And just use some light pressure and you'll usually get it to come back pretty easily. I can get it to work just right here. And you want to make sure it's sitting flat on your table. And we're looking good right there. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to clean up some of the interior glue and we can let our clamps sit on there a little longer, then we'll pull them off.